Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for the BDTI live webinar on empowering public administrations. My name is Erbil Kop, and I'm the onboarding manager from the CEF SMO side for the BDTI building block. It's my pleasure to host this event today, and without further ado, since we have a long agenda, I'll give you a quick introduction on CEF and the housekeeping rules. So, for those who are watching this from directly on YouTube, I invite you to join us on Slido, event code T332, which will allow you to post also comments on the different topics that you're seeing on screen, and also participate in the polls that will take place at the end of the event. And I would like to also remind our lovely audience that this session is being recorded and will be shared in the event page on CEF Digital. So here is the agenda for today. I will be quickly introducing you to the CEF program and the BDTI building, and the building blocks in general, which will be followed by BDTI in a nutshell section, who will be handled by Andrea Bianchini. The BDTI service offering and how to get started will be presented by the pilot request manager for BDTI, Francesca Vella. BDTI community portal will be handled by Roberta Talarico and Federica Russo, working on the platform. And we have the great pleasure of having the Municipality of Milan here, presented by Elisa Bellistri, where she will be speaking about her experience with the BDTI pilot. We have then the BDTI Self-paced labs and the technical architecture and future vision will be shared by our friends and the team members from the technical team. And we will end the session with a Q&A and the polls that will come through. So without further ado, I will be quickly speaking to you about CEF, and also a quick word about CEF programs ending, which ended actually, which will be replaced by the Digital Europe program. But at this date, we don't have enough information to share with you, but please do follow us in order to watch this closely and how the things will shape up for the future. So our main focus on CEF Digital is to increase the interconnection between trans-European networks, and we're trying to help the public administrations, businesses, and citizens to benefit fully from the digital transformation. So in order to reach that goal, we mainly provide technical support to these actors. And in order to help and develop secure and interoperable digital services, the CEF program had funding that was also linked with that initiative. And as I said previously, the Digital Europe program will take over this, but CEF currently doesn't have any funding since it's over. So this support package comes in the form of what we call the building blocks. And here is a list of the 10 building blocks that we have in the program. I will not go each and every one of them, but I do invite everyone to check them all out on CEF Digital. But our main highlight today will be the big data test infrastructure, sandbox environments, allowing public administrations to explore and experiment with big data in order to improve their decision-making process. Apologies. Here's the whichever building block you might choose, one thing that to absolutely remember is that they are fully interoperable. And in order to get on board, you have actually three possibilities. The first one is to buy a compliant interoperable solution from the market, or you can build your solution from scratch using the standards that we do promote and the documentation that we allow you, or use a sample software available already through CEF Digital. And whichever path you choose, we will try to do our utmost to support you into your digital transformation journey. And a quick word on the real benefits of reusing the building blocks. It's because it's faster. We have many cases of ready-to-deploy digital solutions, which at length will help you to save time and money. And it's way safer than what you might encounter into the market. The European Commission's standpoint will never put personal gain or benefits in front of your interest. And remember that you will be having a EU-compliant, interoperable, and future-proof solution. And the funding right now is irrelevant, but for the continuation of the program, of course, this will come back into the picture. So thank you very much for your attention for the introductory section. I will now leaving the floor to Andrea Bianchini. A second.
Yes, hello,
Hi,
good
Andrea.
afternoon. Hi, Erbil. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this webinar where we will presenting in particular BDTI. So my name is Andrea Bianchini. I work in the European Commission in DG Digit, so the Director General that deals with informatics. And in particular, I work for a unit that deals with data science and artificial intelligence. So basically our skills are the ones involved also in BDTI. So in the next few minutes, I would like to introduce you to the BDTI service. So my presentation and my part of the presentation is called BDTI in a nutshell. In a few minutes, I hope I will be able to describe you why BDTI has been created, how it can be used, and why you can benefit from interacting with it. So basically, BDTI, as the name says, is let's say a set of data analytics and services that can be used to build prototypes or small projects dealing with data and so with visualization. You are in contact to experiment with big data in a safer environment and in an environment where it is easier to start a new project because we dealt with some of the technical difficulties and the technical problems that are related to
Yes, Andrea, you're
creating such
breaking up. Yeah,
environments.
sorry.
I'm breaking up my voice. Sorry, Orbil. Oh, okay. Can I
Sorry.
continue?
Yes, please. Apologies for that.
Okay. So I was saying, so basically, big data test infrastructure is this kind of services. So a service and infrastructure that can help you create prototypes or small projects on the big data and data analytics kind of services. We started designing BDTI from this, let's say, problem statement. At the very beginning, we thought, and we had this feedback from European organizations that creating projects in this area should require some help to start. Help because many of the organizations do lack the big data technologies familiarity to create such projects, or they have some big data skills that are, if not missing, not, let's say, developed enough. And so with BDTI, we tried to tackle these problems being more supportive in the initial phase for the adoption of these technologies. Then with BDTI, we also focused on the experimentation part. So when you are on board after, let's say, the first phase, when you have to familiarize with technologies, what you will benefit from with BDTI is that you will be able to experiment with different data sources and data sets. You will be able to play with data, put them together, extract information, and create good results and visualizations from them. Our, let's say, what we really would like to see happening is that at the end of this experimentation phase, we would really like you to share what you did, your experiences, the knowledge that you gained, and of course, if you will be sharing others before you will do the same, and so you will also have the opportunity to benefit from the sharing of information from others institutions or others organizations that before you used BDTI and let's say played with this tools and techniques to build their own solutions. So basically, on these three pillars, we imagine that BDTI could be a good solution, a good proposition for helping organizations like yours getting on board on the big data technologies and on the big data projects and prototypes in an easier way with the support of experts and also engaging and getting in contact with others doing the same path in other organizations. So is BDTI right for you? Well, this question really depends on, let's say, your interest on starting experimenting with big data and, let's say, with the willingness that you have to put your experience and share it together with others. For sure, by using BDTI, what you can achieve is that you will avoid the burden of setting up and maintaining the complex environment that sometimes is needed to operate projects and pilots like this, because we have already done all of this for you and it's available on our platforms. Then on the platform, you will be able to develop pilot projects, creating big data analytics and also visualizations in a virtual environment. So in an environment which is completely yours, yet it's supported by the technical experience that we can provide. With this environment and with this experimentation, for sure, you will gather high knowledge and insights about the data you will be manage, the data you will, let's say, put in the system to play with, and you will have the opportunity to experiment and create prototypes very quickly that can verify or test some hypotheses, and eventually some of these pilots will be then translated. You will have the interest of translating them into real projects of real benefit for your organization. So with BDTI, you will be able to test and start your play, let's say, with these technologies and this data ecosystem in a safer and easier way, and you will end up with some solution that we really hopefully uh, believe that they will be helping you in your everyday life in your organizations. On this slide, you see some of the examples of the use cases that you can develop within BDTI. They are described from a functional perspective, but if you are, let's say, a data scientist or a data enthusiast, you will see probably some of the problems that you're facing today to be solved by some of these use cases. With BDTI, we propose you to do some descriptive analysis, so use statistics to describe some phenomenon happening on the data that you measured and see and develop a better understanding of it. We can even do social media analysis, so analyzing data from social medias like Facebook, Twitter, and all, let's say, the social platforms that we very much start to use and are now using in our world. But you can also do more, let's say, advanced functionalities like time series analysis, so extrapolating trends from data developing over time, or doing predictive analysis to trying to anticipate what's going to happen next based on the data that we have, and so doing good predictions on the future, network analysis, and so on. Here on this slide, you also see one section, let's say, focused on COVID-19, because we are proud to say that within BDTI in the last year, in 2020, we started hosting some prototype and some, let's say, small projects to deal with COVID-19 data and to extract knowledge about this data that was somehow helpful also to our common fight toward this pandemic that, of course, we are still underway trying to tackle. Other possible use cases leverage, as you can see, different other scenarios and can leverage different other technologies. We range from IoT for smart cities, but also to route and traceability. And so the possibility to monitor flows and have information about sensors, about, let's say, moving objects in our environments. And these two pillars can be very helpful in designing smart services in our cities for public transportation or many other public services. Then we can apply the techniques and tools in BDTI also to web analysis, to population or customer segmentation, which is very helpful to, let's say, measure the way some policy affects some of our, let's say, a subset of the population, some of the groups that we deal with. We can do image processing, and you can also, let's say, do a more advanced bioinformatics and let's say genetic algorithms to the data that we have to develop and say an advanced science in this field. In general, we think that BDTI can be a good tool that has some good benefit to share with you. So the main benefit for this platform are the one listed here to our opinion. So the possibility to have a ready-to-use testing environment without doing all the effort to create this. We have the benefit of share and use the data that is already existing, so you don't have to collect it by yourself, and the data that you produce can be shared with others that can of course add value also back to you, that if you publish this data let's say on the common platform. And then, of course, with BDTI, you have the opportunity to develop some insights and some best practices about how to manage data projects or pilots. And so you will gain a good knowledge about how to implement new solutions in this sphere. The support that we offer is in line with the goal that we have in common to, let's say, make these benefits be more concrete. And so the support that we offer is about the provisioning of various data sources, but also software tools and also techniques that are available to you on the BDTI platform and in the building block, and they are ready to use, as we were saying. We can also offer some advice and some guidance, starting from the very beginning of your onboarding process up to, let's say, all the life of the pilot itself. And then, of course, we can provide a knowledge base, so an exchange of knowledge and information, so that you can benefit also from experiences done by others in our, let's say, community that we are building around this service. I hope that you had the opportunity to see how BDTI can be of help of your work, and maybe I hope that I stimulated some thoughts about what you could be doing with this. If you are interested in testing this and using this more in details, I leave the floor to my colleague that will guide you better to the service offering and how to get started. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. So good afternoon, everyone. I am Francesca Vella, the BDTI Pilot Request Manager, and today I'm going to present you all the different services offered by the BDTI and all the steps you need to follow in order to open a pilot request. So, in this slide, you can see the entire set of services included in the BDTI service offering. As you can see, they are split in three phases. Starting from the first one, the request phase, we have this phase during which we collect all the requests, so all the tickets coming from the users through our service desk. The service desk is our single point of contact. So through this service desk, you can open a ticket to require or ask for some information or clarification to understand what is BDTI, or directly submit a request to start with a pilot project. Together with the service desk, at the beginning of this process, we activate also the onboarding and stakeholder follow-up service. Through this service, we will support you during all the duration of the pilot, so from the beginning till the end of your project. In particular, what we do initially is to help the user to understand better what BDTI can do and which type type of analysis can be performed in it. And during this time, we also understand with you the specific direction that your project can take, so helping you defining a use case and identifying all the requirements needed for your project. And then we also once collected all these inputs, what we do is to configure the platform. So our technical team will configure it, and so we will provide you our core service, the test infrastructure. The test infrastructure indeed is a sandbox environment in which users can, during a period of 6 months, experiment with their big data and play with them using the tools that the technical team has installed in it. So, of course, the platform can be reshaped during your project for any need. For instance, if you need an additional tool or an additional data sources. Then, during the closing phase of the pilot, when the pilot ends, what we do is to collect your feedback. So we collect all the insights and suggestions coming from the users, which will help us to improve the platform itself, but also all the other additional services. So speaking of these other additional services, we have, for example, 2 catalogs. The first one, the data source catalog, is a centralized repository of reliable data, open data. So user can access it in order to find some open data that can be useful for their analysis. Indeed, this open data can be combined with all the other data that the user already has available in order to expand its analysis. Then we have a second catalog, the Big Data and Analytics Software Catalog, which allows users to download specific analytics softwares that can be used for their analysis. In particular, these tools are classified by technological areas, for instance, data visualization, data analytics, data transformation, and so on. And then we have this additional service called Data Scientist Assistance that can be activated on demand. So just in case public administration requires for it. So if, for instance, internally a public administration do not have enough resources to work on the pilot project, the European can provide a data scientist to help this public administration to implement their pilot. Then, and a very interesting and important service is the BDTI Community Portal. This portal is a space where members can share their experience and knowledge about BDTI and the big data in general. And create synergies with other organizations so they can enlarge their own network and their collaboration opportunities. Today, we will have a very interesting section dedicated to it that will be managed by my colleagues Roberta and Federica. So then you will have a lot of more details on it. So finally, we have this new service, the advisory service for the in-house implementation of BDTI. Indeed, the final aim of the European Commission is to help public administration to become more mature and being able, after the end of the pilot, of continuing their project in-house. With this regard, this service provides an estimation of costs, time, and resources needed for the in-house implementation of the test infrastructure and all the related guidelines and recommendations. But how to get started with BDTI? Basically, once you get familiar with the BDTI services and what you can do with BDTI, you can submit your BDTI pilot request opening a ticket. So on our BDTI webpage, there is a dedicated section called Request BDTI Pilot, through which you will be able to submit an online form, a very simple form, to send us your request. Once we will receive your pilot request, in the initial stage, we will support you, understanding together with you how to shape the platform according to your needs. And then once collected all this information, the technical team prepares an estimation of the costs of your pilot that will be submitted to the BDTI board for the formal approval. Once received this formal approval, the test environment is quickly set up, and so all the specific tools are installed in it, and you will receive the access to the platform in order to immediately start with your analysis. But which are the acceptance criteria for a pilot to be approved? As you can see here, there are some business criteria. First of all, the requester has to be a public entity. It can be at national, regional, or local level, but it is fundamental that there is a real and full engagement of a public administration, which can also collaborate with other organizations or entities, but it needs to be involved as primary stakeholder. Then a clear view of what the added value will be has to be clear since at the beginning of the project. And we need to have a clear contact point for the pilot during all the duration of the project. Then we have some functional criteria. First of all, a pilot project can last up to 6 months. The type of analysis to be performed in it has to be in scope with the ones that Andrea listed us before. Then the BDTI is a platform that is completely for free, so you don't have to pay any money or to anticipate money, but of course the pilot cost has to fall within the budget provided by the CEF. And lastly, it is important that public administration has adequate skills and resources internally, so people that can effectively work on the project and that have an adequate level of maturity regarding the big data subject. And lastly, we try to assure that a graphical distribution of the pilot, that there is a geographical distribution of the BDTI pilot. So we try to provide to all administration all over Europe the same opportunity to start and to have a pilot with us. So here you can see an overview of some of the ongoing BDTI pilots with a focus on how BDTI is helping their projects. But today, since we will have the pleasure of having Elisa Bellistri from Municipality of Milan pilot who will share her experience, I won't take up any more of your time giving a lot of details on it. If you are interested in knowing more about them, please visit our BDTI community portal, because in this portal we have a dedicated session called Pilots with all the information regarding the ongoing and completed BDTI pilots. So speaking of the portal, I leave the floor to Roberto and Federica for their interesting section. Just one last point. If you have any question at the end of the webinar, we will have this Q&A section, so we will glad to answer to all of your doubt or your need to clarification. So thank you, and I leave the floor to Roberta and Federica.
Yeah, thank you, Francesca, and good afternoon to everybody. It's a pleasure to share some information on the BDTI community portal with you this afternoon. I'm Roberta Talarico, expert in communication and stakeholder engagement. And I'm going to share with you in particular why a BDTI community portal and some specific goals before leaving the floor to Federica for a complete navigation through the portal. So why a BDTI community portal and why become member of this portal? As we have just listened to, there are a lot of information, methodologies, use cases, technologies that can be used, pilots, details, insights, and potential outcomes that you can share with the community in the portal, and that you can deal with in this community space. Moreover, there is a forum section where you have the opportunity to interact with other pilots owner and with other public administration that, as we have listened, are the owner of the BDTI pilots, and share with them your ideas, launch also new proposal, and create new synergies for expanding your big data network. Looking at the specific goals of the community portal, let's say that they are about participation, action, and interaction. Why participation? Because the community portal allows to foster participation and engagement of all the BDTI stakeholders in a space that is a collaborative space, and making this stakeholder part of the European big data ecosystem. What about the action in terms of specific goal? It means develop and share technologies, and also to discuss and contribute also to the future of BDTI. So being active also with regard to its future, and interaction. So all the kind of insight, practices, opportunities that you can share with all the other members in order to, as also mentioned before, expand your network and find and create new opportunity for big data driven projects. So now I would leave the floor to Federica in order to go through the community portal by navigation. Thank you, and please, Federica, floor is yours.
Thank you, Roberta, for your introduction to the BDTI Community Portal. I'm Federica Russo, and I'm part of the BDTI Community Portal team as a user experience designer. In fact, I give my support on the portal construction in terms of usability and content. Let's start from how to access on this community. The first step is to reach the CEF Digital BDTI Connecting Europe official website. This presentation will be uploaded in the event page, so you should be able to access to the link. But if for any reason you don't, you just have to Google CEF Digital BDTI and you will find the link in the search result. Once click the link, you will land directly in the homepage of CEF Digital, where you will find Join Our User Community button. Once landed in the BDTI community portal, it's necessary to be logged in order to have the full vision of the content and to have the possibility to participate, interact with other community members. So you must click on Login at the top right of the window. If you don't have an account, you can make the registration by clicking on Create an account and by filling all the fields with the information asked. After that, you should receive a confirmation by email, so then you should be able to log in as a new user. If you already have an account, you just have to insert your email and password and put as verification method password and not other voices. After this small explanation on how to access on this community, we are ready to start for a website navigation. Okay, so here we are. We are inside the BDTI community portal. We are already logged, as you can see here. And as you may notice, we have some main sections. We have the BDTI pilots, the forum, the BDTI events, and the catalog. And we can enter to these sections by the menu and by the home page. But let's see in detail each section. Let's start from the first one. The BDTI pilots is a summary on ongoing and completed pilot. Here, members have the opportunity to get inspired. And each project is described as a success story, so by highlighting the technology used and the area of application in decision-making. For any additional information, we have the forum, where members have the opportunity to ask any questions, to participate to debate, and create a new topic. At the moment, we have two main areas. We have the Tech Deep Dive, which covers topics related to the BDTI platform, potential use cases, and other technical aspects. And the BDTI technical team is in charge of these sections. It means that they foster debate and react to any comment from third parties. Then we have the pilots, which covers topics related to use case objectives, experiences, and technology. And in this case, the pilots are in charge to answer for any questions and interact with other community members. So the forum works as an interaction space among the BDTI community members. What are the advantages? If you become a member, you can have an exchange views with other members, you can reinforce and create your network, and you can have some technological exchange with the members, and much more. Then we have the BDTI events, which is useful to be updated on events organized by BDTI team. And where the members have the opportunity to share with the community events that are related to the world of big data, just by clicking on Add Event and by updating the upcoming event table. If you missed any event, we have these sections where you can find a link with all the materials, so presentation, recording, etc. Then we have the catalog, in particular the software catalog, which is a repository of software program for implementing big data use cases. And it is possible to consult it by tech area, as in this case, for example. Let's see data visualization. And by the full list. Each software has a dedicated page. So by clicking on the box, you will have a full description of the software, and you will have the direct link for the downloading. Then we have the data source catalog, where you can find open data sources available for a pilot execution. So, for example, here we have an overview of all the open data available. And also in this case, we have a dedicated page for each of them. The access to the catalog is subject to a specific request. So by clicking on the link present in the page here for the first time, you will land in a white page with a request access button. Once click this button, the BDTI team will will enable you to access to the catalog. Then we have some secondary pages, but not less important. We have the technical support and FAQ, where you can ask any kind of support if you want to ask any questions or report any issues or request a pilot. You just have to click on this button. And there is a similar button also in the homepage, so you can ask support also from there. Then we have the glossary, where you can find some definition of terms related to the world of BDTI and big data. And last but not least, we have Tell Us What You Think on BDTI, which is very useful to us because by giving your feedback, you will support us on continue with the improvement of the platform. The navigation session ends here. We have tried to give you an overview of the BDTI community portal and try to highlight how it can be used to your advantage. Thank you very much for your attention. Now I'm going to leave the floor to Elisa Bellistri from Municipality of Milan for a pilot showcase.
Thank you very much, Federica. I will be adding Elisa right away. I just would like to take this opportunity to tell our audience that the questions and answers are all seen, and we will address them at the end part where the question and answer will be launched. Adding now Elisa to our feed. And Elisa, thank you for being here, and the floor is all yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Elisa Bellistri. I work as a data scientist in the Municipality of Milan. I go to share my presentation. It's okay. I hope it's okay. Okay, so I will show you today our experience with the BDTI platform, our pilot. I briefly show the agenda. I will tell you about what our division does into the Municipality of Milan. Then I focus on what happened with the COVID-19 emergency, and then how we implemented some analysis on the BDTI platform. I work in the data management and integration division. This division is composed of 4 units. One unit is dedicated to the geographical data, one to open data. We have a statistical unit, and then this is the unit where I work. It's the unit of analytics and data science. What we do, basically, we support, we give support to the major, to the government with the data analysis in order to achieve a data-driven decisional process, of course, oriented to citizens and city users. In particular, then in a city as Milan, a big city that daily produces a huge amount of data, we also give support to the Chief Technology Officer for the management and the analysis of big data. But as everybody knows, exactly 1 year ago, something happened, this COVID-19 disease outbreak, and so the city of Milan considerably changed his configuration. So besides all our daily routine, the analysis that we already did before, we have a new interest in studying what happened in the city, in the configuration of the city. In particular, in a big city as Milan, what happened is a considerable change in the flow of people. But if at the beginning there were more an interest in studying how these flows changed during the lockdown period, of course, a lot of people that we cannot move, so there was a terrible change in these movements within the city of Milano. With the ongoing pandemic period, the situation evolved, and in the following, we were more interested in understand how to manage this changing and how to control these flows in order to promote physical distances, but not social distances. What I mean, I give you a brief example. For example, the municipality immediately changed the configuration of the bicycle track in order to promote the use of the bicycles and not the public transport, not to get the public transport too crowded. So this means a change in the use of the public transport, a change in the use of the city, the kind of transport within the city. Of course, data analysis can support the comprehension of these different mobility flows, and not only the flows, but in particular the variables that underlie these flows. That's why at the end of last spring, the beginning of last summer, we started some projects, in particular 2 projects with 2 telcos companies. One was Vodafone, the one that I show you here, and the other one was TIM. And we were interested to get the telcos companies' data in order to understand how these flows changed and to characterize the variables that underlies these flows. What I show you is one of the results we got from the Vodafone project. Basically, this is an origin-destination matrix with a heat map color code. And so we have the city of Milan divided into different zones. Then we have the immediately neighborhood of Milano, then the province, and the rest of the country of Italy. And we are able to see how many people in a particular period moved from a zone to the other. But not only, because we have also attributes, thanks to the telcos data, we have attributes connected to these flows. So we can characterize the flows in different periods of the day and the week. We can know the nationality of the people moving, if it's an Italian or if it's a SIM from abroad. We know the age range and gender in the case of private SIM, of course, all private, all aggregated data, not personal data. And they also know this particular kind of attribute, the residence related to the telcos company. It means where the people slept in some previous nights. It means where his movement starts from, and so to characterize this origin-destination matrix. And these are the data we collected from the telco, but we also have other parameters that we are able to add to this data. So, for example, we know we have data from the city of Milan, so we know how many people work in the different activities. We know the number of students versus the number of tourists or workers. We have a lot of georeferenced data of store, industries, school, and so on. And that's why we joined the BDTI platform, in order to integrate all this data and to construct a more complex system that is able to analyze this movement. We chose a desktop configuration connected to a data lake that is a S3 storage on Amazon Web Services, and we are using a Python client for the analysis. Okay, I will give you a very, very brief summarize of our preliminary results. As I mentioned before, we performed two different projects with the telcos company, one with Vodafone, the other one with TIM, and what we have is data in two different shapes. For the one, we have the data with the zones divided into NIL. NIL is they are 88 in the city of Milan. In the other case, we have the city, and so the data, the movement characterized in the ACE map. If we overlap these two maps, we have a considerably cross of these zones. So our first objective is to be able to transfer the information we have from a data set to the other, in order to be able to get a quality assessment of this data, but also to be able to find the correlation between these two data. Of course, this could seem something like an exercise, but what is important is to construct a model in order to be able further to add more and more data we have, so to achieve this data integration that we proposed to. I will show you just this very short result about what happened if we try to overlap the NIL shapes to the ACE. We got this heat map that show us the degree of correlation between the two maps. And of course, the idea is to apply this matrix to the correlation matrix of the data, and so to get the final result of how the two data set correlates. Okay, this was just our preliminary results, our example, but what I want to point out is a bigger picture of this project, and is the opportunity, first of all, to experiment new ways to approach the data. What is our daily routine at work? As I mentioned at the beginning, we have a lot of questions, a lot of problems to solve in order to support the administration, the public administration. But we hope with this project to be able to experiment more, to look at a bigger picture of this data analysis that will be also useful then for the daily routine, the daily job. Then another thing that is very important for us in participate to this project is the opportunity to share our experience and our data with other municipalities and other groups in order to share different strategies, and so to learn how to approach these emergencies from the big data point of view. But not only from the side of the emergency in general, I hope to find more knowledge, to get more knowledge from the sharing with the other BDTI partners in order to improve new methodologies and data analysis in general. So, which is our next step in the project? Of course, we have to integrate further data set, as I mentioned, for example, Wi-Fi connection data of the people in the city, or the geographical data that I mentioned before. So to the model that I briefly described, add more and more data set what we have. And finally, construct a kind of a predictive model. So not only study what is happening in the city of Milan, but also have a model, have a prototype that allows us to predict what could happen, for example, if we close a particular kind of activities, or if we decide to move the transportation in a certain way, and so on. And then another next step that I really hope is more webinar like this, and more sharing knowledge opportunities that it's really, really important. Thank you very much. I leave the floor to
Thank you.
Dan.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much, Elisa, for this wonderful
you.
presentation. When I'll be adding you right away, and the floor is all yours.
Okay, thank you, Elisa, for your interesting presentation. So my name is Seven Wu, and I'm part of one of the members of the technical team that will provide you technical support for BDTI. So in this section, I'll give you an introduction to our self-paced labs initiative. So I have 20 minutes, and after the first 10 minutes, you have a clear understanding of the why, the what, and the how question of these self-paced labs. And in the last 10 minutes, I'll also give you a short demo on one of these self-paced labs about data exploration of the COVID-19 cases in Belgium. So this slide summarizes all the building blocks offerings in BDTI where we currently provide IT infrastructure. In the next section of this webinar, you'll have a deep dive on all of these building blocks. But for now, understand that we provide IT infrastructure for data visualization, for data querying and processing, and for data storage. So when developing this IT infrastructure of BDTI, we made the assumption that future pilot users all have an internal data science department. And when we provide them instructions to work with the infrastructure, pilot users are able to analyze their data independently. However, from past pilots, we observed that this is often not the case, and consequently, we felt that the initiative is lacking for introducing even non-technical pilot users to data science methodologies and tools. So this is the reason why we have started the initiative of self-paced labs. So that was the why question of self-paced labs. Now the what question. So what exactly are these self-paced labs? So in essence, self-paced labs are short tutorials that are focused towards non-technical pilot users. So the format is that they are developed in Jupyter notebooks, which is a great medium of integrating explanation of the theory and running the associated code for an interactive learning experience. Secondly, these self-paced labs has the goal to introduce non-technical pilot users to popular Python frameworks for working with data. So for example, Pandas data frame, scikit-learn, and matplotlib Python packages are introduced in these self-paced labs. And finally, these self-paced labs use open source data from EU Open Data Portal and Kaggle, which is a machine learning community. And the Python frameworks are then applied to these open source data to demonstrate the benefits of these frameworks as a proof of concept. So the other what question is, what are the currently available self-paced labs that you can follow, that you can consult when you start a BDTI pilot? So we have developed two main clusters of self-paced labs. One is on machine learning methodologies, and the other is on big analytics data exploration. So in the machine learning cluster, BDTI pilot users will get an introduction on how to use popular Python packages for data exploration, solving regression, classification, and clustering machine learning problems. And on the other hand, we have the big analytics data exploration cluster, where BDTI pilot users will get an introduction on how to use big data frameworks such as Apache Spark and Apache Hive to handle data exploration on huge data sets. So for example, huge data sets of above 30 gigabytes. So the next slide shows a more detailed matrix of the title of the self-paced labs we have developed, together with the open source data that was used, and also the different tools that are introduced, the different Python packages introduced. So now we can continue with the how question. So how can these self-paced labs actually help pilot members? We reasoned that when we develop these self-paced labs, we can convince a potential pilot user that there is also guidance for extracting knowledge from your data, even if you lack the technical skills. So the idea is that you can copy-paste code snippets from these self-paced labs into their own Jupyter notebooks during the analysis of their own data. And on the other hand, these self-paced labs form a centralized educational source for non-technical pilot members. It teaches them some essential skills to work as a true data scientist. Okay, so now as we're speaking with a more general audience here, you might not be familiar with the terms such as working as a data scientist or using machine learning to extract knowledge from your data. So for the next slide, we shall give a short introduction on what is machine learning. So what is machine learning? To know what machine learning is, we have to zoom out a little bit and we have to explain what the field of data science is. So data science is the interdisciplinary field that uses mathematics, uses computer science, and depending on your data, uses domain expertise to extract knowledge and insight from structured or unstructured data. Now, machine learning can be seen as a subfield of data science that uses only mathematics and computer science to develop so-called general learners. And the machine learning model is then trained out of these general learners to predict knowledge and insight from your data. So that being said, machine learning is often used for making a predictive model to predict new information from your data. So, okay, that was the context of machine learning in the field of data science, but what is the strategy of machine learning to predict information from your data? So classically, how we do it beforehand is that when you want to use computers to predict a phenomenon, you have to know already a great deal about the rules and the behavior of your system to make predictions. So for example, when you fire a cannonball, you have to know already a great deal about the gravity and how projectiles behave in air resistance to know where your cannonball will land. Now, to program your predictive model, you will then need to consult very expensive domain experts, and such as physicists or engineers even. And a next step would be to test the correctness of this model by using example data answers that you've gathered from firing a real cannonball. Now, what is a strategy of machine learning? The strategy of machine learning. So actually, machine learning starts from the answers and starts from what the model results should be, and use this so-called training data to train from a general machine learning model or algorithm into a very accurate trained model that predicts new information consistent with your original training data. So this avoids consulting very expensive domain experts in constructing a predictive model, and in most cases, it is also a faster modeling technique. Okay, so the idea is that machine learning uses your training data to train a general machine learning model into a very specific model for your data. However, to develop these general machine learning models, we have to generalize your specific data problem actually in machine learning problems. So for example, your data might describe a ranking problem, or your data might describe a recommendation, or your recommendation problem, or your data might describe a classification, regression, or clustering problem. Or your data might even use anomaly detection to extract knowledge from your data. So in BDTI, self-paced labs are then developed to introduce a BDTI pilot users to fill these machine learning problems. So more specifically, techniques for classification, regression, and clustering are introduced. So let us give us an example. So one of these machine learning, so what is classification? The idea of classification is to try to figure out what kind of thing something is. So for example, you might have data in the medical sector where you have data on the size and the shape of a particular breast tumor that a patient might have. And you want to construct a predictive model to predict whether this tumor is benign or malignant. And the benefit is of course, that it speeds up the decision process and it alleviates working load of real doctors. So that was an example of classification in machine learning. Okay, so here's an overview again of all the self-paced labs we have developed, and hopefully now you have a better understanding of the titles displayed here of these self-paced labs, and hopefully also understand the additional value of this additional learning source we provide to potential BDTI pilots. So, right. So that was 10 minutes. Now I'll give a short demo on one of these self-paced labs about data exploration on the COVID-19 cases in Belgium. All right. So here you can see the title of one of the self-paced lab about data exploration on OpenAU COVID-19 data. And for each of these self-paced lab, we actually provide an explanation of the open data that was used. So in this case, we are using the worldwide COVID-19 data up to December 2020, extracted from the EU Open Data Portal. And in each of these self-paced labs, we also provide some explanation of and some content of what you will learn in this self-paced lab. So in this case, we are learning about how to explore tabular data with pandas package using Python. We are using we are introducing packages that you can use for making customized data visualizations in Python. And it also, in this lab, you'll also get introduced in statistical terminology and statistical visualization tools to describe your data. So, all right, so we start with the first section about exploring tabular data with pandas data frame. So here you see that you see what we mean with the integration of explaining the theory and then running the code directly afterwards. So in this case, it explains to you how you can download data from an open URL, and then immediately afterwards you get an explanation that what the associated Python code is to achieve that goal. So in this case, we are downloading the globally COVID-19 data from EU Open Data Portal, and we are also importing our data, which is in a CSV file, into the pandas data frame, which is the data frame, which is a data structure specifically designed in Python to handle these tabular data sets. So, okay, it explains to you how you can import your data here, and then it continues with, okay, how can we visualize our data here? And then you can see, you can really see what kind of data we're dealing with. So at each day of 2020, we have information about the COVID cases and the COVID deaths of a particular country with a geocode in a particular continent. So, all right, and then it explains to you how you can sample from this tabular data. And it also explains you very basic concepts such as how can I extract the rows of this pandas data frame? How can I extract the columns of this pandas data frame? So for example, in this case, it is explained that how can I extract, for example, only the Belgium cases, the Belgium COVID-19 cases from my tabular data set. Right. And then one of the common problems of tabular data is missing data. So when some of the elements of this tabular data is not defined. So in this case, how do we sum up missing data here? In this case, we are actually using this line of code in Python to see that we have the case that we have some of the geo-IDs are not defined. We have the case that some of the country territorial code are not defined here. So there are many ways to deal with missing data, but for the sake of this tutorial, we shall just remove the rows that contains any of the missing data in one of those columns. So it explains you how you can achieve that, and then we are only left over with the data that without missing data here. And then in this section, we conclude this section with saying that we only work with the COVID-19 data of Belgium here, and we are saving it into a variable to continue the analysis. And then that was pandas data frame that gets introduced. Now the next section introduces the package of matplotlib, which is a comprehensive library for making a static or even animated and interactive visualizations in Python. So we start by wanting to plot the Belgium COVID-19 cases, and then versus the date. So we want to know what the COVID-19 cases are at a certain date of 2020. So you can do this using the plot function of matplotlib, but then you get this very ugly plot, and then you can say, okay, how can I make this plot more visualized, more beautiful? Well, you can say, well, the tutorial explains to you how you can add the title to this plot, how you can label the axis of your plot, and rotate the dates here to make it more visually pleasing. And you can say you have visualization problem here. Why do we have so many fluctuations in the COVID cases? Well, that's because the COVID cases in Belgium are registered differently for the weekends and the weekdays. So how does the Belgium news deal with that? Well, it calculates the week averages, and it only displays the week averages of each day. And you can say, how can I calculate that? Well, this tutorial shows you how you can do that using Python functions, and it explains you line per line how what each of these Python commands do in this Python function. So and then by recycling the code above, you actually just calculated the week averages of the COVID cases of Belgium using Python packages. All right, and you can say, all right, let us compare the COVID-19 cases of our neighbors, the Netherlands and France. How do I do that? Well, the tutorial explains to you how you can do that by recycling the code above. And you've just made this nice plot here by comparing the COVID-19 cases of Belgium, Netherlands, and France. So you can say, okay, nice tutorial, but how can I use it in my own BDTI palette? Well, to do that, actually, you can just open a new Jupyter notebook here with using the IT infrastructure that we provide in BDTI, and you can just recycle, copy paste a code snippet that are relevant to use, for example. So for example, you might say, okay, I want to analyze the COVID-19 data of Italy here. So you can just copy paste this code snippet and say Italy, and you've just extracted all the COVID cases of Italy here. And you can say, let's visualize the same plots using the COVID cases of Italy here. All right, my computer's a little bit slow today. And you can say, okay, I want to make the same visualization methods of Python package, but for the Italy cases, you can change the Italy labels here, and you can say, okay, we have the same visualization problem here. Why there are so many fluctuations? The same problem can be solved using calculating the week averages, and you can just calculate the week averages here, and you've just calculated the week averages of the Italy cases. And then changing the titles appropriately, and you can say, okay, I want to compare my Italy cases to, for example, in this case, Spain and France, for example, or just change it here, copy it into your own notebook, and you have just made a new plot here by changing some variables of this tutorial. Well, the labels are not correct, but I think you get the idea. So that was my part. So hopefully we are reaching the end of this section, and hopefully you have a better understanding of the why, the what, and the how question of this self-paced lab initiative. And with that, I will pass the word to my colleague Casper, which will have a more deep dive on the BDTI offerings that we provide.
Okay, thank you, Zewen. So my name is Casper Rutte. I'm here on behalf of the technical team together with Zewen, and I have a couple slides prepared for you about the technical architecture of BDTI. So the technologies that we leverage to help you in your pilots. So let's get started then. I have a similar slide to what Zewen had before as a sort of marking of where we're going in this section. I'll give you a quick overview of how we're achieving the 3 pillars of data visualization, query and processing, and storage, and what kind of technologies you can expect to use to solve these problems within your pilots. So without further ado, the brains of the whole operation, let's say, are the analytic workbenches, of which pretty much every pilot will have one. That involves mostly a data science virtual machine. So this is your dedicated Linux-based virtual machine that will be quite powerful, obviously leveraging the cloud infrastructure that can be far more powerful than sort of the machines that you're used to working with. It is decked out with pre-installed with a lot of very common analysis tools, including obviously the Jupyter hub that Zewen demoed earlier in his very interesting section, as well as our studio, basically all the usual suspects in the data analysis field. So this will be basically the brains of the operation, and then your access point to this virtual machine, because you will have usually only one sizable virtual machine and be multiple users on it. And then your access point will usually be the virtual desktop offering, which will have a pretty familiar looking feel to it for those of you that are not as versed in Linux, which is definitely a very common case for our pilot users. So this will be a Windows environment that also has some tools installed for you to do some lighter work on as you delegate the heavier compute jobs to the data science virtual machine. This access pattern also takes care of the networking complexities of having sensitive data hosted on the data science virtual machine by connecting through a client like this, a virtual desktop client like this, in our case, Amazon Workspaces. You can have a convenient way to connect to your infrastructure, as well as a familiar one. So yes, as the slide mentions, the machine itself will also be decked out in quite a few tools, but will not be as powerful as the data science virtual machine. So moving on, data lake solutions, obviously also very vital in any pilot section. This will be the most easy to use and basic form of object storage, backed by Amazon S3 in our case. And this is an object storage that scales nearly infinitely to capture all your data lake needs. Not a whole lot to explain on that front. Obviously, very easy to integrate with your data science virtual machine. Also something that CEN has examples of in these self-paced labs, if ever you struggle there. Definitely the more straightforward one of my slides. Moving on then to probably less straightforward list of technologies. So these are the real heavy hitter technologies for performing big data analytics. Now, full disclosure, this is a little advanced for most pilots in the sense that these technologies, while very powerful, are quite complex. And I imagine if you haven't heard of them before, it's probably fair to say that that you won't likely be using them, especially early on in your pilots. But these are basically for performing real big data analysis that scales up into the terabytes and is too large to handle on a single machine, and so needs a distributed cluster to manage. So in this department, we offer a Spark/Hive cluster, which comes pre-installed with Hadoop and such to perform your more complex and queries on your fast data lakes. Also backed by S3 optionally. Yeah, and that's it for the big data analytics solutions. Moving on then, databases, as I'm sure you are probably familiar with, we offer quite a variety of them. So for the relational databases, which are probably more familiar to most of you, we have many different engines that we offer backed by Amazon RDS. That includes MySQL, Postgres, Oracle, all the usual suspects in that regard. We also have some NoSQL databases, and definitely if this confuses you, or if you're not quite sure what the difference are between these two, these are the kinds of questions that we answer during the onboarding process of the pilot. We will definitely help you differentiate between when the former or the latter technology is more appropriate, or maybe you don't even need a database at all, and your use case can run on a data lake solution just fine and do most of its processing in memory. So that's that for the database solutions. Moving on, we also offer Elasticsearch and Kibana cluster, which is a bit more of a niche use case if you want to use the entire stack of both Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana. But the component of an Elasticsearch cluster was a very convenient way for pilot users to make quick visualizations of their data and of their analysis results. And as we have also, as mentioned in the last section, if you're not quite sure where this might benefit your pilot, definitely something that will be discussed in the early stages of your onboarding about how you might use these technologies, maybe the entire stack, maybe only the Kibana part of the stack. But Elasticsearch basically is a text-based search engine for performing analysis on very large amounts of text-based data. So most famously used in the log analysis space, but as mentioned before, it can also be used only for the visualization features that Kibana offers. And then finally, we have some AI solutions out a little more, let's say, self-paced labs, although the self-paced labs will definitely get you going and get you a feel for the kind of activities and problems you're trying to solve and how to solve them. But we also offer the H2O AI machine learning platform, which is a bit more of a holistic, completely open source platform for performing your machine learning on. It supports most widely used statistical and machine learning algorithms. Obviously supports RStudio and TensorFlow and such. Not a whole lot more to say on this section. So then, as a final sort of window into what exactly BDTI offers and takes care for you, then this is definitely something worth zooming in on really quickly. So part of what discourages people from going to the cloud and part of the hurdles that they face involves the security and the access management. And these are, by using BDTI, these are the kinds of problems that we solve for you, especially in the pilot stages of the project. We will you onboard onto an environment that has gone through rigorous security checks. It has an integrated identity and access management system that we will take care of for you completely, as well as obviously logging and monitoring. Whenever something goes wrong, you can expect us to be aware of that, hopefully before even you would be, and then data protection as well. That's it for my section. Happy to answer any further questions you might have in the Q&A. And I pass the floor back to you.
Thank you very much, Casper. So indeed, we reached the end of our initial plan and presentation. So what I will do, I will add everybody back into the stream and we can launch the Q&A section right away. So it will be a little bit chaotic at the very beginning. Apologies for that. But here's everyone that presented. Thank you very much for all of our speakers on the things that were presented. We're a little over time, so I suggest that we start with just the questions that we received in the chat. Thank you very much for the questions. And here's the first one. I don't know who would like to take. I'm reading it out loud, please. What happens after 6 months of the pilot project? Are there any costs for the public administration after 6 months in order to continue using BDTI?
Maybe I can answer to this. What happens after the 6 months of the pilot project? The pilot project basically ends, so your environment will be switched off. So there is not the possibility to pay to continue using BDTI since BDTI is a test environment. But what we can do together with you is to support you if you decide to migrate the environment in-house, so your data in your production environment. Indeed, we have this specific service called advisory service for the in-house implementation of the BDTI to help you in this. I don't know if Casper or Zewen would like to add something on this.
Maybe a few words, yeah, but that was quite clear, I think, Francesca. So once your pilot ends on BDTI, obviously we would very much hope that you can continue your efforts on your own, and we provide some guidance. We provide a package of some lessons that we learned even as a host for these pilots, and we support your migration to your own on-premises or cloud-based production environment. So hopefully that can answer your question.
Thank you. It is indeed our utmost objective to make the transition after the pilot, of course, to make it become your in-house solution. A second question that was asked, quickly showing it on screen right now. Are all the tools provided open source to allow for replication on sovereign infrastructure without vendor lock-in?
I can perhaps take this question.
I think
So
yes, that's what we.
Yes. So during the development phase of the platform, this was a pretty stringent requirement. So yes, all because of the reasons you mentioned, all the tools are open source.
Thank you. And last but not least, before we launch the polls that we prepared for our audience, this one is a bit more open. So I will be reading it out loud as soon as it's on screen. Can consulting companies working with the public sector or developing products for it also use the BDTI service?
Okay.
I know the answer for that one, but I'll let Francesca take over.
Yes. Okay. As I told you before, when I talk about the acceptance criteria for a pilot to be approved, the request for a BDTI pilot has to come from a public administration. So a public administration has to be fully involved in it. This means that there is the possibility for this administration to collaborate also with other type of organization, as a private organization, as a consulting company, something like this. But it is important that our contact point is related to a public entity. I don't know, Erbil, if you want to add something.
That's absolutely what could be said for this sponsorship or partnership is necessary for the. Sorry, Andrea, is that you?
Oh yes, if I may, I would like to add a thing.
Something?
So
Yes, please.
that somehow summarize some of the questions that we had. So the idea with BDTI is to develop together a pilot on data and big data, as we were saying. So the goal of the pilot is to prove a solution, a technology to be helpful for an organization. So if for doing this, the organization needs some help, some support from consulting companies, yes, okay, it's no problem. It's for sure also a good opportunity for migrating the result of the pilot into an effective production system after the pilot end. At the same time, as Francesca was saying, and I'll be, confirmed, we require somehow the public administration to be the formal requester for the pilot. And the reason for this is not just to be formal, but it is, we think, the best way to ensure that what we develop, what you develop in our platform, is something that really interests the needs of your organization. So if we have all these elements in the equation, I think we will have a successful pilot in the end, and so we all benefit from this. And for having participation of external helps supplier, supplier, because they will. So basically, to me, this is the concept that we need to take in mind.
Thank you. Thank you very much. These were all the questions that I could see. If it's okay with all of our panel, I will initiate the polls and we'll be sharing the image on screen. And I will also take this opportunity to, to launch also on the Q&A section a link for the satisfaction survey. It will be great if our audience could take the time to reply to these anonymous questions in order for us to assess what did you think of this session and how we can improve the future ones. So I think for this, Francesca, you can take the floor for the questions and direct our audience.
Yes, so We have prepared some questions to understand which are your preferences related to some topics. So first of all, thank you, because thanks to your answers and your insights, we'll be able to improve our services. We can start with this first question, and this is really useful for us to understand which would be the main drivers for you to choose to apply for BDTI. So for instance, maybe your organization already has and collects big data, but you do not have a platform to analyze them, or I don't know, maybe you like that there is a better, a big support service dedicated to you, or maybe you like that BDTI is for free, so you don't have to pay anything to go on with your project. So let's see which are your preferences related to this question. I think, oh no, something is going to change. But yes, the first one is I am interested in the opportunity of networking with institutions and organizations, and we are really happy that this is the first one. Since today we have a dedicated section for the BDTI community portal, who is think to give you the opportunity of doing this. And also we had the opportunity to learn about the experience of Elisa Bellistri from Municipality of Milan and her intention of continue build a network with all the other stakeholders involved in other pilots. Then I see that the second answer is I would like my organization to make data-driven decisions, and this is really good also because this is the final aim of carrying on a BDTI pilot. And then BDTI is free. So as I told you before, if you are a public administration and you start a pilot with us, you do not have to pay anything or to anticipate any money to carry on your project. Okay, and then the other, but I think we can maybe pass to, okay, I see that, okay, yes, the next question. This question instead want to understand why you should not apply for BDTI. For instance, maybe because you are a private entity, as we told, as we already explained you before, and you are an academy or a university, and you find difficult to establish a collaboration with the public administration, or maybe because it is not clear to you how to request a pilot, or maybe you are not sure that your data will be managed in a secure way. So let's see what about your answer. But in the meantime, I would like to add something regarding this sensitive topic, so the security ones. And I just want to say that BDTI is a platform that is hosted by AWS, but AWS do not have access to the BDTI platform. So the data on BDTI is managed by the operational team of BDTI and the BDTI users themselves, but all the pilots have a different space, as a different, are separated in the platform, so users can only access their own platform. And in addition, the European Commission has a contract with AWS to guarantee specific security measures, so you can be sure that your data will be safe. So this is important to clarify. And indeed, the most voted answer is I'm not sure if the data are managed in a secure and private way. So I hope that this explanation will be a good point to solve this doubt. Then I see it seems difficult to apply. Regarding this point, okay, it's changing, but yes, it is difficult to apply is one of the most voted answers. So regarding this point, I think that it's easy to apply because you have just to go on the BDTI webpage and you will be directly bring to the service desk through a button that say open or request a BDTI pilot. So what you have to do is to have an EU login account, so register to the website, and then you can apply for a pilot, just filling in a really simple format. So then you will be supported by us in everything you want. So this could be not difficult. And then I see that one of the most voted answer is I feel I need additional services or information in order to apply for BDTI. Okay, if you have any need of information or additional services, you can open a ticket through our service desk also for it. So not just to request a BDTI pilot, but just to ask for some information. So please reach out to us to let us know if you need any kind of information or if you have some suggestion about an additional services that you would like to have in BDTI. And I think now I can leave the floor to Roberta and Federica to the for the question related to the community portal. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Francesca. Let's see some questions now on the community portal. So first one, what do you consider the most interesting aspect of the BDTI community portal? So giving to you some time to give your opinion. So in general, the options include exchanging views with other public administration. Okay, the most voted are creating or reinforcing each other's network. Indeed, it is very relevant expanding each own network for new synergies and potential opportunities, because of course, expanding network means also new opportunity for a new typology also of big data driven project. Then learning about new data technologies and what can be done in BDTI. Indeed, in the community portal, you can find a lot of information on all the kind of technologies that you can make use of. And the methodologies, and also there the technical team is ready to answer to your specific questions, and you can find specific use cases, but also some cases that have not already been done, but that demonstrate what kind of technologies or methodology you can apply. So yes, it's rich of this kind of information. And of course, you should take some time to navigate through it. And whenever you don't find the answer that you are looking for, of course, also there you can reach us through a specific form. And then learning from pilot success story. Yeah, indeed, they are really interesting use cases that you can base on. And as we today listen from the detailed explanation of the Milan case, there are really interesting insights to take there. And yeah, I see that all of the options are quite interesting for you. So last one, understanding with what other public administration are building in BDTI to get inspired. Yes, it's similar to the use cases of the pilot in general. Even if you are not a pilot owner, in the community portal, you can exchange views and proposal and experience with other public administration for onboarding or for other any kind of experience exchange that may be useful in your frame. Okay, so we can go to the next questions. What do you consider the most interesting aspect of the BDTI community portal? Gaining the role of BDTI ambassador, it means that you can become an active promoter of the BDTI community and also play a role as speaking in this kind of event together and participating to also some more also restricted meeting with the BDTI team and being a very engaged participant in all what is also about the future of BDTI taking shape. So the most voted is having more interaction with BDTI stakeholder. So, for example, the onboarding team, the technical team, the public administration, because the BDTI community portal exists in order to be a space where all the stakeholders relevant to BDTI can share all the kind of information and opportunities that are relevant for them. So the more you are active and the more you navigate and the more you participate, the more you propose your ideas and interaction in the community portal, the more, of course, you have opportunity to have insight from the onboarding team and specific answers from the technical one, and also expanding your network with other public administration and also with all the other universities, private sectors, and stakeholders that are interested in supporting public administration in developing BDTI pilots. So last one, receiving feedback, because as mentioned, the community portal is also a space where once you have any kind of doubt or any kind of specific question, there is a team there ready to answer to your questions. So if a technical one, there will be the technical team, and so on for the other kind of questions that you may have. Yeah. Okay. Next one. Right. Yeah. We are okay.
I think this
Thank
was.
you.
Thank you very much. We are slightly over time, but thank you for all who participated in the polls and the questions asked. I will say thanks to the panel of speakers that you can see all here today. Thank you very, very much. It was a pleasure to produce this event with the BDTI team. And I will quickly remove everyone and thank our audience for the attention that you reserved us for this event. Please get in touch with us and follow us on our different channels for future events that will be surely coming your way. Thank you very much, and we will be logging out little by little. I have to unfortunately show myself for a little second, and thank you very much. I would like to also remind everyone that this the whole recording will be shared on the event page that you used for the registration, and looking very much forward to see you in the future events, and stay safe and take care. Bye bye.